There is something that happens in a woman's body before her mind has caught up with what she is feeling. A shift so small and so specific that most men walk right past it without ever knowing it was an invitation. And if you have ever been with a woman who seemed warm, present, genuinely interested, and then watched that interest quietly disappear without any explanation you could point to, there is a very real chance you missed the moment she was sending you something she did not know how to say out loud. I'm going to walk you through 5 body language signals that a woman sends when she is deeply drawn to you. Not the obvious ones, not the performed ones, but the ones that come from somewhere older and more honest than anything she could choreograph. One of them I almost left out entirely, because once you understand it, you will not be able to unsee it. And the way it works is not what you would expect. Before we go any further, I want to say something that I need you to actually hear. If you have been paying close attention to women, noticing things, trying to read the room, doing everything the framework told you to do, and it still has not worked the way you thought it would, that is not evidence of a personal failure. Dr. John Gottman at the University of Washington spent decades studying the architecture of human connection, and one of the most quietly devastating things his research revealed is that emotional signals between people are missed, not because one person does not care, but because they were never taught what to look for. You were not broken. You were working without the right map, and the map starts here. The first signal is what I call the orbital drift. When a woman is deeply drawn to a man, her body begins to orient toward him without any conscious instruction from her brain. She will be in the middle of a conversation with someone else, and her shoulder will angle in your direction. She will cross a room and stop 3 feet closer to where you are standing than the room actually required. She will adjust her position in ways that are subtle enough that she herself does not notice she is doing it. But her nervous system is following a pull that her prefrontal cortex has not yet named. This is not performance. This is the body moving toward what the nervous system has already decided it wants. When you see it, do not rush toward it. Do not close the distance immediately. Stay where you are and let the pull build. The women who are worth knowing have extremely well-calibrated detectors for a man who can stay still in the presence of something he wants. That quality communicates something to her that almost nothing else can. But this only reaches its full power when you understand what comes next, because without it, everything you just learned can quietly work against you in the exact moment it matters most. The second signal is the held pause. Most people are not comfortable with silence. There is a social reflex, almost universal, to fill empty space with words. But when a woman is genuinely drawn to a man, something changes in how she experiences the silences between them. She will finish a sentence and not immediately reach for the next one. She will hold the space open for a beat longer than is strictly comfortable, and she will watch what you do with it. This is not awkwardness. This is a test she is not consciously running, but that her nervous system is running on her behalf. The question in that silence, the one she has no words for, is whether you are the kind of man who needs to fill every empty space, or whether you are comfortable enough in your own presence that you can let a moment breathe. Her oxytocin response, the bonding chemistry that Dr. Gottman's research links directly to the feeling of emotional safety, activates more strongly in the presence of a man who does not flinch when the conversation goes quiet. Anxiety fills silences. Steadiness lets them be. And what she feels in that unhurried moment, and I mean feels, not thinks, is the difference between a man who is performing calm and a man who simply is. The third signal is the softening exhale. I want to be careful how I say this because once you hear it, it will change how you read every interaction you have had with her. A woman who has been managing her life independently for long enough, carrying the professional weight, the domestic weight, the emotional weight of everyone she loves, holds a specific kind of tension in her body as a baseline. It lives in her jaw, in the muscles across her shoulders, in the controlled steadiness of her breath. And when she is in the presence of a man her nervous system has decided is safe, that tension releases. Not dramatically, not all at once. In one quiet exhale, her shoulders drop almost imperceptibly. Her jaw unclenches. Her breathing slows by a fraction. She does not do this consciously. She cannot do it consciously. It is a vagal response, the parasympathetic nervous system registering something below the level of language that says, this one is different. If you are paying attention, you will feel the room change before you can name why. That is the signal. That is her body telling you something her words are not ready to say. Now, I want to stop for just a moment because I think something needs to be said that does not get said enough. A woman I know, someone who spent a decade being the most responsible person in every room she entered, said something once that I have never been able to forget. She said, "I did not need someone to fix anything for me. I just needed someone to sit down next to me who already understood how tired I was without me having to explain it." That is what the softening exhale is. That is what it means when a woman's body lets go in the presence of a specific man. She is not going weak. She is going home. The fourth signal is the retrieval look. Here is what nobody says out loud about how female desire actually works. When a woman is drawn to a man, she does not just look at him. She looks away, and then she looks back. It is a retrieval. Her eyes leave his face, drift for a moment to something else, and then return. Not because she lost interest, because her nervous system needed to check whether the pull was still real, whether he was still there in the same way. Dr. Lisa Diamond at the University of Utah has documented extensively that for women, desire is fundamentally attachment-based. It builds through repeated emotional confirmation rather than through a single moment of recognition. The retrieval look is that mechanism made visible. She is not playing a game. She is not being coy. She is confirming involuntarily that the feeling she felt a moment ago is still present. When you catch that second look, do not perform awareness of it. Do not smile in a way that announces you noticed. Simply hold her gaze for one beat longer than she expects, with the unhurried steadiness of a man who was always going to be there when she looked back. That beat, that single unhurried beat, communicates more about your depth than an hour of the best conversation you have ever had. And the next piece either activates this completely or reveals the one place this principle silently breaks down in a way most men never recover from. The fifth signal is what I am going to call the proximity test. And this is the one I almost did not include because of how precisely it works and how easily it can be misread. When a woman is deeply drawn to a man and she is not yet sure whether she is safe enough to show it, she will create a small logistical reason to be physically close to him. She will ask to see something on his phone. She will move to the same side of the table to look at something together. She will find a moment where the natural choreography of the situation brings her within a few inches of his shoulder. She is not running a script. She is giving herself a sanctioned reason to feel what her nervous system wants to feel, which is the specific warmth and weight of proximity to a man she is drawn to. A mature woman, a woman who has been hurt enough to rebuild herself, who does not give her vulnerability away carelessly anymore, will never simply close the distance without a reason she can defend to herself. The proximity test is that reason. It is plausible deniability for her own desire. What she is actually doing is bringing herself close enough to register whether the feeling holds at that range, whether the pull becomes warmth, whether warmth becomes something she is willing to feel more of. If you are the kind of man who can receive that proximity without immediately filling it with words, without leaning in so fast that you dissolve the moment, without making her feel that she walked into an eagerness she has to now manage, you will feel something shift between you that has no name, but that both of you will feel for days. This is the part that most people skip past, and I do not want you to skip it. A self-sufficient woman in her late 30s, 40s, 50s, a woman who built something real after something broke, who kept showing up after she had every reason not to, does not signal her desire the way a younger version of herself did. She has learned to hold it. She has learned to protect it. The walls she built were not built from coldness. They were built from intelligence, from the accumulated knowledge of what happens when she trusted too quickly, opened too fully, gave too generously to a man who had not yet earned it. What you are reading in these 5 signals is not flirtation. It is evidence. Evidence that despite everything she knows, despite every reason her history has given her to stay behind the wall, Something in her is considering the possibility that you might be different. That this time, the evidence is pointing in a direction she has not let herself believe in for longer than she wants to say. Her nervous system is doing what it was biologically wired to do. Reach, through the body, toward the specific frequency of a man who makes her feel like she does not have to catch herself if she falls. That is what she is offering you in these signals, not performance, not games. A real biological, primal, ancient reaching towards something she has missed. Something her body remembers wanting, even when her mind had given up believing it existed. What I am about to tell you changes how you read everything you just heard in a way you will not be able to undo once you understand it. Everything we have talked about today is a beginning. These 5 signals tell you that the door is open. What you do in the room beyond the door is everything. And there is one more layer to this, one specific thing that determines whether a woman who signals this kind of depth actually moves toward you or quietly, gracefully, and permanently closes the door that I want to walk you through in the video that follows this one. The man she chooses is not the most impressive candidate in the room. He is the one who understood what the room was actually saying. The one who stayed present when every signal in her architecture was designed to test whether he would stay or leave. That man does not need youth or money or a different face. He needs awareness. He needs presence. He needs the willingness to keep learning what most men, for reasons that have nothing to do with intelligence and everything to do with what they were never taught, will never take the time to seek out. You have already done that. You are already that man. What comes next is the piece that makes everything you absorb today land exactly where it is meant to.